This is an SM Media production.
Hi folks, and welcome to the final episode of the SM Media Scottish Women's Football Show for season 2023-24. I'm Scott Pike. It's an absolute pleasure as always to be your host. We are at the end of the season. We've got a lot to talk about. We waited until everything was finalised and we knew what was what before we did the end of season podcast. And it is always a pleasure to be joined by my co-host Suzanne Mulvey. Suzanne, we're there. We got to the end of the season and we've got a lot to go through here.
What an end to the season as usual, especially SWPL 1. They love leaving things late, a bit of excitement. And in the playoffs as well, obviously we've got Clare on, but just loads of drama, lots of excitement, so it'll be a good one.
And speaking of the word drama, I think the special guest this week is very much the cause of a lot of the drama over the playoffs in the SWPL too. But no, it's an absolute pleasure to welcome back onto the show the hero of a United's run into the SWPL too. It is an absolute privilege to welcome Clare Docherty.
Thank you.
Good to be here. It's a pleasure, and we'll obviously get your thoughts on what was a very hectic evening last week where you obviously clinched promotion to SWPL 2. It wasn't as plain sailing as I thought. I thought it might have been at one point, but we'll obviously get into that. But we start obviously with the big league decider in terms of the SWPL. Went to the final game as we thought it might. Celtic had it all in their hands, and Suzanne, it looked doubtful for a while, but Amy Gallagher again got that goal. And Celtic, a journey that has lasted a long, long time. They've always been seen as a team that would they be able to do it in that key moment, and they did. And I think the whole club, Elena, what they've went through this season with Elena coming in, replacing Fran, that side absolutely deserve that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, I played with Celtic a few years ago, and you know, I remember having meetings where David Haley was the manager at the time, and also with the marketing director Aid, and it was a 5-year plan they had. They wanted to win and that would have been 2021-22. So you know, a few years later, they finally managed to cross the line. The only trophy they hadn't won, but thoroughly deserved. I think over the course of the season, they were the better team. But 100%, you know, drama as usual, leaving it right to the very end. The first time it's ever been in their hands, you know, you win the game, you win the league, and I was at the game, you know, 80th minute, I was like, wait a minute, are they not going to do this here? And then obviously right at the very end, the drama and excitement, it was absolutely fantastic to see them grab that goal and for Kelly Clark especially to lift that trophy.
Player, obviously, there's a lot of players in there. Like I think a Kelly Clark, I think a Caitlin Hayes, like Amy Gallagher coming in, Natalie Ross as well, kind of starting. I thought she was terrific in Sunday as well. But you look at that side and you look at the players they brought in as well. Like Natasha Flint's made such an impact. I thought Murphy Agnew in the end of the season was tremendous. That side just was riddled with talent. And one thing that stands out as well is that the manager has come in and she has really galvanised that side, and they've went and get the job done.
I know. That, as Suzanne was saying, it is interesting how they left it to the last minute. That there's such a good squad, and it seemed like it was plain sailing. It seemed like it was in their hands, and I don't know if it was maybe the pressure on the last day, because they did perform well, but they were making silly mistakes, and with that kind of group of players and the squad that they've got, it was unusual for them. But it was no surprise that it was Amy Gallagher. Let's be honest, if somebody's going to step up and put in a last minute winner, it was going to be her. But I do think they deserve it. I certainly think, like, after all the years and for where they've came from, and they are a professional club, but it did take a long, long time to build that. And obviously, as Suzanne said as well, it was the only trophy they hadn't got. So I think to win it the day after the men's team, it put them in a good stead, and it boosts their game, it boosts the reputation of the women's game as well.
Yeah, so absolutely. Suzanne, a Celtic aside that you can see, like I thought with Rangers a couple of seasons ago when they won the title, I thought they can go on and dominate, and it just hasn't happened for one reason or another. Although they are still obviously winning a double this season. We'll get into them in a minute, but can Celtic continue? Can Celtic build on that? Can Celtic go on and dominate Scottish football, or is it going to be a real kind of tight race between the top two? And we'll see what City do in the summer. But can Celtic build on that, or do you think they will struggle to keep the likes of Tash Flint and players like that who have really performed this season?
Well, I believe that Rangers have got the best squad. You know, Celtic had the best season. They deserve to win 100%. But if you're looking at the squad player for player, especially the attacking options, you know, with Rangers, Jane Ross, Kirsty Howard, Rio Hardy, Rachel Rowe, Sarah Ewens, it's absolutely frightening the players they've got. Brogan Hay out wide. So for me, they've got the best options going forward. But Celtic just dominated in terms of the experience that they've got on the pitch. Kelly Clark, Natalie Ross, Caitlin Hayes, Chloe Craig. The goalkeeper's been absolutely fantastic as well, which you always need strong at the back. In terms of Natasha Flint, I already seen something on social media saying thanks again. Thanks, you know, thanks again, short but sweet, or whatever it was. So I think she's away. But for me, I think that was a turning point. I'm not saying that they wouldn't have won the league if she hadn't came in, but it would have been much harder because she scored some really vital goals for them. And you need attacking players, you need a target player, you need that striker. So for me, for Celtic to dominate, I do feel that they've got great starting players and a few players on the bench, but I do feel that they need to build and bring in some real quality players to you know, add to the squad, not just kind of be fringe players. Because Rangers will be hungry, you know, they'll be hungry next year. And again, don't write off Glasgow City, you know, Rangers won it, and then the next year Glasgow City were back and they took the title back. So for me, it's about recruitment. You've already seen, you know, Rangers, Leah Eddy leaving Hibs and going to Rangers, and they needed a centre half, let's be honest, playing Meatag at the back. So I think for me, it will be down to recruitment. I think that the core of the Celtic players, I think, are staying. The only one that I know about, Lisa Robertson, is out of contract, so she's kind of in talks at the moment. But like Natalie Ross has still got another year. Obviously, you know, like say Craigie, Kelly, you know, they've all signed new deals or whatever, so they'll be about for a while. So I think it is just a case of who can recruit, who can bring in big players that'll be starting every week, that'll, you know, add to the quality that they've already got. And again, it's like, you know, how many players will leave? You know, you've got players that have played fantastic and they put themselves right in the shop window, so there'll be clubs maybe down south or abroad that'll be looking to steal them from Rangers or Celtic or Glasgow City. So I think it is just a case of, you know, how many players they can keep and also who they can bring in to add to their squad.
Claire, obviously Rangers went and get the job done in the winning the cup double and the Scottish Cup, obviously beating a really resolute Hearts side. I thought Rangers this season, as you say, I think it would have been really, really difficult to see past them with what they've done, but they're a side that I think will be disappointed that they haven't won the title. But you look at the squad, as Suzanne says, they've got so much talent there, and I think they're going to struggle to keep a lot of the big players. I think they're going to, like, the likes, looking at likes of Kirsty McLean, like, I think it's really, really impressive that they managed to keep Clare Docherty for another couple of seasons, but it's going to be really, really tough for them to keep that core of players who've just done so well over the past couple of seasons.
Yeah, it was Joe Potter done an interview and she actually says that this is the best team. We have the best team. And it's interesting because when I seen it, it was actually Rachel Corsey and Leanne Kite that were reviewing that. And they made good points that it is probably the better team, but it's about proving the results. They have, because they've got the cup double, but they couldn't go in and get the league. But I think with Rangers, they actually have a really young squad, and actually they've produced some young players. So Brogan Hay came into them really early. She's a prime example, and she will be. It depends on how it's going to work for her. Does she want to get experience at Rangers, or is an offer going to come in and she's going to go? But players like her are really, really crucial. If they start to leave and if they start to it breaks down the squad a wee bit, how are they going to be next season? But at the same time, they'll bring in players and it might be somebody that can replace her or somebody with more experience. And it's all up for grabs, to be honest. And I think Hearts were really good this season as well. And we talk about Celtic, Rangers, Glasgow City because that's the three that are always dominating up there. But Hearts were really impressive this season. And a couple of times I think they were just unlucky. The final as well, I thought they were unlucky. They were really, really good. They performed well. They just couldn't get the goals. And that just seems to be, if you don't have a target player, then obviously you're not going to get the goals. But I think it could be at fine margins next season. And I wouldn't like to call it to to predict who it's going to be next season, because it could be a wee span on the works somewhere.
Suzanne, obviously, as we say, Rangers, like, you look at their side, I mean, Rachel Rowe, I think was tremendous, and I think she will go on have a really good career. Mia McCauley, somebody I really like as well. Rio Hardy's been excellent. We just get so much depth, and I just really, really like the job that Joe Potter's done, and Leah Eddy coming in as well, I think is a tremendous piece of business. Like, I think that is the signing, that is going to be one of the signings of the season, like in Scottish football. I think that's a brilliant piece of business.
Yeah, 100%. She's proved herself at Hibs. You know, Hibs have kind of for years they've had like the likes of Joelle Murray, Siobhan Hunter, and her. You know, slotting in there and keeping both of them. You know, at the team at times. It shows what a quality player she is. And as soon as, you know, a couple of friends were messaging me, as soon as that message came through that Hibs were losing all the players, we knew straight away, right, who's came in for Leah Eddy. And the other one for me, Jorian Bokum. If Celtic don't go for her, I'll be absolutely shocked. She's a fantastic player. What a striker. She's strong. She's got an eye for goal, can run the channels. Fantastic player. And for me, if I was at Celtic, I would 100%. They need strikers more than Rangers. The Rangers could go for her or get her or whatever, but with their attacking options, it's less likely than a team like Celtic. So for me, I'd be picking up the phone to her straight away, trying to get her in, because they need a player, especially with Natasha Flint away. If that is away, obviously she's saying her goodbyes. Is that it was a loan deal?
She's back to America. Yeah, I've just had that confirmed.
Yeah. So it's just a case of, you know, for me, what team will come in for her? Will it be a team down in England, abroad? Because she's a fantastic player, and Hibs have been a team who have been kind of hit or miss this season. Yeah. So the fact that she's still kind of dominated as one of the top strikers, for me, arguably at times the best striker in the league. The play, you know, that you've seen from her. So for me, it's you know, players like that they've seen, they've been proven against, you know, Celtic, Rangers. She's proved that she's a good player. So players like that you should go for. You know them, rather than, you know, other players abroad or whatever that you've not quite seen close up. But you know, touching on Joe Potter, she's what a manager. Came in. I love how vocal she is on the sideline. A lot of managers are quiet, but you know, she talks to girls right through the game. She's very encouraging towards them, and what a fantastic job. And again, you know, talking about the podcast with Rachel Crossy and Leanne Crichton, you know, 100% she's saying I've got the best team. I do think she's got the best squad, but the 11 that have been on the park, obviously for Celtic, have been, you know, the more dominant. They've not even picked up more points, but they've, you know, obviously goal difference, they've kind of got where they needed to be. So, you know, and just again, it's just kind of recruitment for me. I'll tell exactly who's going to pick that trophy up.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's obviously move into the playoffs, the other major bit of news. We'll start with the SWPL 1 playoff. I was going for an Ayrshire double. I really thought, being an Ayrshire boy, that there would be an Ayrshire double. And Claire, I'll start with you, obviously, with the Kilmarnock game, obviously the night before yourselves. Like, I thought Kilmarnock fairly comfortably first half were the better side. They deserved to be a goal up. And then in the second half, I don't know what happened. I thought Dundee United come back into it, scored 2 really, really important goals. And I think I'm very, very surprised at how that game turned out. If you'd said to me at half time that Kilmarnock weren't going to go up, I'd have been very surprised.
We were training that night, so I never actually got to watch the first half, but we caught the second half. And for what I heard, for the amount of people that was there that said that Kilmarnock were dominating, and I was really surprised, because if you'd asked me before the game, before even seeing them on the pitch, I would have said Kilmarnock would go up. Yeah. And I don't know what's went wrong. I know that they had a couple of players injured. I know they've lost a lot of players this season due to injury, pregnancy, things like that. 2 players to pregnancy. Yeah. So they've went down kind of in their strength, but they've still competed to the end of the season to actually get to the position they're in. So it was a big shock, a really big shock, to be honest. Dundee United have obviously done well to keep themselves in it, but I wouldn't have put my money on it at the start of the game. Certainly wouldn't have.
And I thought Dundee United, in terms of, like, obviously the game, like, to show that character, to come back from 1-0 down and really, really struggling, takes a lot for what they did. And they are a side that you feel really need to improve next season if they want to stay in the league. At Queen's Park are coming up. I think Queen's Park will be really, really good in that division. I think further teams around them will strengthen. I look at their squad and think they really need to improve if they want to stay in this league next season.
I've touched on it before. Obviously, I know Susie really well there, and for me, she'll get the squad really, really fit. and she'll get them resilient, that if they go 1-0 down, they can come back. And I think that what we've seen in the playoff game was a touchy Susie coming through. Like, for me, that's kind of what she was all about, her career as a player, and hopefully that's filtered through to our players. So for me, you know, again, it's recruitment. You know, if she can manage to pick up a couple of experienced players, add a bit of younger players, then it's fantastic. But obviously, you know, Brodie Greenwood's back at heart, so players like that who have played such a vital role will be hard kind of spots to fill. But yeah, in terms of Kilmarnock, you know, a soft spot for them. I know Lauren Rayside really well from playing bar at Motherwell. Jim Chapman, I never got a chance to play under him, but you know, it was our closest rivals when I was at Hibs against Kilmarnock years ago. He was in there, and a fantastic manager. He's done a fantastic job, you know, getting them into the playoffs. So it was a very tight one. And a hard one to call, and like you says, you know, coming back from a goal down in the playoffs obviously shows that Dundee United have done really well and managed to get themselves back in the game and finish it off and obviously keep themselves in SWPL 1 for next season.
Yeah, absolutely. And the following evening promised to be a very dramatic game, and it certainly lived up to the bill. Glasgow Women versus Ayr United. Watched the game again. Claire, I said this to you off air. I thought you were absolutely majestic for Ayr in the first 63 minutes, scoring the hat-trick. And then you proceeded to pull out the best Luis Suarez impression I've ever seen. But starting on the hat-trick, to do that in that pressure game, I know what it means to you to be the person. I know what you've done for Ayr United in terms of the women's side of the game. When you scored that third goal and you thought, right, promotion could be within 30 minutes, what was going through your mind in terms of what this could mean for Ayr United? Look, we'll start with that before we move into the kind of final whistle, but scoring that hat-trick, where does that rank in your career?
So the third goal, I definitely thought that was it. I thought that was it. I even ran towards the crowd to celebrate because I thought, oh my God, we've done it. I didn't see how Glasgow Women could come back for 3. Obviously, they had a goal, but they still had a mountain to climb to get to where they were. But it was just so emotional. Like, as soon as I scored the first goal, I could feel myself filled with emotion, and the team just ran towards me, and I could see what it meant in their faces, and I felt the exact same feeling, and we just had a genuine belief. So the closer it got to actually getting there, like you just wanted to grab it with everything you've got and get it, because that is massive for us. And obviously, now that we're talking about it, we have achieved it. But at that point, it just was at such a close distance to grab onto that, and we felt we had done it at the third goal point. It was amazing. It was amazing. A definite career highlight.
Suzanne, what did you think watching the game and seeing what Clare did? And then obviously Glasgow Women, in fairness to them, do come back really well. They do make it a tough, right? It's one of the most dramatic games of football I've watched this season. Like, there's been a lot of games this season in a lot of leagues where it's been full of drama. I can't think of a game as high pressure as this, and was watching it as watching, kind of knowing some of the players that were involved and knowing what it meant to a lot of them. I could only watch and just think, what on earth is going to happen here? Like, it just felt it was that crazy a game. And from the outside, what did you think watching it?
Some fantastic finishes, so well done, Claire. Great performance. I thought the full team were, you know, defensively great up until, you know, it was getting to the end, and I think nerves were kicking in a bit. But just a fantastic all-round performance, and obviously touching on, you know, the red card. I bet you're absolutely sick of hearing it, you know, goalkeeper jokes and everything like that. But for me, it's taking one for the team. You know, like, in that moment, you've just thought, there's no way this ball's hitting the back of that net, and I don't care if it means I'm going to get a red card. And it's, you know, it's maybe not the right way to look at it, you know, but at the end of the day, you want to let that ball hit the back of the net. And for me, that's just pure passion. Like, you just wanted it that bad that you were willing to walk, you know, and that was for me. Like, it just shows your character and your, you know, experience as well. A lot of players would have, you know, maybe ducked it the way or whatever, but, you know, again, taking away from that, just an all-round fantastic performance. And for me, the celebrations and just, you know, how you could see how much it meant to yourself and the other girls. And it's such a competitive league, SWPL 2, that it's just fantastic that it's going to have another team who are, you know, in there strong, fighting. And it's great to see, you know, of course, teams are going down the other way. But for me, you know, the more teams that come up that have got experienced players like yourself and great younger players, it's fantastic for the game. You know, I feel it's getting stronger and stronger, and every league is getting, you know, tougher more teams challenging at the top. So it's a fantastic advert for the women's game.
Claire, obviously, like, I do need to ask about the third Glasgow women goal. When you do that, and I did mention Luis Suarez because I remember him getting interviewed after the Uruguay game, maybe like 5 or 6 years later, and he said very similar to what Suzanne said. There's no way that ball was going in that net, and it worked out, and it worked out here as well. But like, that does show your level of commitment to the club, and that you, by hook or by crook, that ball wasn't getting in. Did you hope you'd get away with
it? For a split second, I did. No, and and let's be honest, if that's a league game, you're not doing that. You're letting it win. But there was 20 seconds left to go of 99 minutes, and it just, I could not believe that it was going above my head to get in the back of the net, and it definitely would have went in. There's no doubt in my mind. So for a split second, I did kind of look, but there's a picture of me like that to the ref after it, because I was like, I know, I know. But again, 20 seconds, and I thought, Charlotte, if she saves it, that's it, bye.
Yeah.
And I did think she would, and then she's went the right way. Unfortunately, she never saved it, and then there's another 30 minutes of pure torture. So
what were you doing in that 30 minutes? What was like?
So I stood in the tunnel initially because I wanted to hear if she'd saved it or not, but they escorted me away. I had to go up to the segregation area up the stairs, so I got to watch the game. But see, to be honest, I was really numb at first. I never felt, I don't know, just kind of felt a bit, that is what it is, I don't regret it. And I thought, well, I'm going to be the villain now anyway, no matter what. So people kept walking by me and they were like, are you okay? And I was like, I'm fine. I don't regret it. I'm not going to change it. And then when Chloe scored, oh my God, I broke down. That was me. I was gone. I was absolutely gone. I couldn't believe she'd done it. And actually, in the lead up to that point, I could see that we were really battling hard. And that's something about our team. We've got such resilience, and we don't give up. Like, we've got such good mentality and mindset, and it's like throughout the whole team. Obviously, you know, the manager, Craig Potter, his background psychology, and he does talk about having a winning mindset, and he talks about having belief and things like that. And it worked. Like, this whole season, we've just had that ingrained in us, that that's what you've got to achieve, so that go and achieve it. So with 10 men in the park, with extra time, you've been ahead twice, and now you're fighting for everything. And I do think we looked the better team in the extra time. So when Chloe scored, after that, I was just a nervous wreck. I think there was maybe 16 minutes because it was another 15, and I was just shaking like a leaf. I was just begging it to get to the final whistle. I was just willing it to happen. And the closer it got, everything's racing through my mind, because I'm thinking, this is it. We're about to achieve this. I can't believe it. And then when the final whistle went, I think I just disappeared under my seat.
And I want to obviously kind of single out two players in particular in that extra time. Like Chloe, I know how hard Chloe's worked to get into the side and kind of break in, and I know kind of how much that means to her. Thought 2 saves that Charlotte Ferguson made were absolutely unbelievable. Like, to do that in the pressure situation, and knowing her a bit, knowing how hard she's worked as well. The whole side have worked tremendously hard, but Chloe and Charlotte I want to single out, and I know you will as well, for their performances in that extra time. As you say, that there was a lot of pressure, and to do what they did in that situation, I thought was remarkable.
I know. I'll start with Charlotte, because actually, I think you kind of take Charlotte for granted because she does what she does, and she's just there, and she's so consistent. And it wasn't until I actually watched the game back with, I was about to say less emotion. It wasn't less emotion. It's just that I could watch it properly. And the amount of crucial saves she pulled off that full game, for the start right to the very end of the extra time. And she does save the goals that would have been in had you had another keeper, for example. So she was absolutely outstanding. And again, you wouldn't be in the position you're in if it wasn't for her for the whole season. She's played every minute of every game, and she's been absolutely outstanding for us. So I had a wee shout out to Charlotte, because she's amazing. And I think it really is so easy to take your goalkeeper for granted. Just that, oh, she does that anyway, it's fine. But it's great that she's had such recognition, because see, after it, a lot of people have said, like, your keeper's brilliant, and you want to hear that, and you like to pass it on to her. And obviously Chloe scoring that goal, like, I honestly, see, when I think about the goal and I picture it, I get the exact same feeling and emotion, maybe not quite as intense, but if anybody was going to score it, it would be Clare Docherty. we had a game at the start of the season against Morton, and she's came off the bench and scored a last minute winner. Then we were down, no, we were drawn one each with East Fife in the middle of the season. Who steps up to score the 91st minute winner? Clare Docherty. And she's just got that in her locker. And when you watch back the goal, see the run she's made for her own half. And she runs, and it's a bit of an aimless run because she's too far away to press anything. The balls went left. Chloe just keeps pressing. By the time it's went in at the middle, Chloe's still pressing, and she's pressed that hard and never stopped her run that by the time that pass is made, she's able to intercept it. Nobody else running about knew that was going to happen, but Chloe's got that in her mind. That, you know her, obviously, she's a PT. She's got such a good character when it comes to like being fit and pushing past your boundaries and things like that. So watching her go back, it wasn't just a fluke. That was absolutely well deserved to get that goal. If any, like I said, if anybody's going to get it, it's Chloe.
Yeah, absolutely. Susanna, what you obviously touched on Glasgow Women before we can ask Claire about the kind of preparations for next season. Back-to-back relegations coming out of the SWPL altogether, it's going to be really, really tough for morale at the club. How important is it that they galvanise in the summer and try and just kind of get some spirit back? Because the spirit of that club must be really, really damaged right now.
Yeah, they obviously had, they've managed to get promoted in the SWPL 1, and to be honest, they lost a lot of players, and their squad was by far the youngest in the league when they got their first relegation. So really, really tough for them. Don't think they picked up any points, or they never picked up any wins. So going back down to SWPL 2, and then it's tough when you lose players, and you've got so many good teams that are not only fighting for promotion already, but you've got teams that are coming up like Ayr. We've had Montrose, we've had so many players pushing up. Rossvale are going to be in there. There's so many teams that are in there competing, that if you're not prepared and you're losing so many players on your first relegation, that if you have such a big changeover, then really there isn't a lot of hope for you. You've got to keep I always believe you've got to keep the core players. No matter what you do, you've got to keep 5, 6 starting players, core players, important players. And touching it again, that's why I feel that Celtic have got the way they are now, because they've managed to keep Kelly Clark, Chloe Craig, Caitlin Hayes now for a few years, Natalie Ross. They've kept their players and built all around it, and they've managed to get there. And if you don't do that, especially in such a competitive, I feel that SWPL 2 is much more competitive than SWPL 1, because you've got 4, 5, possibly even 6 that you think could possibly get promoted. So for me, just far too competitive for them, and with such a changeover in players, changeover in manager in between that as well, it's just been too much for them. I do believe that they've got a good setup. I love their setup. It's a community. They've got good people involved in the club. So hopefully they do bounce back soon. But yeah, really, really, really hard. It'll be so hard for them trying to come through. There's so many good players involved in the game now, and so many teams fighting for promotion at the SWPL that it will be really tough for them.
And Claire, I think that's important, obviously, to kind of get your thoughts in next season. Obviously, like, you have come out of a really, really competitive league where, like, Rossvale have been very good, like East Fife have come down and did well. Like, coming out of that and then going into SWPL 2, I think next season, just looking at Kilmarnock are there, Hamilton are coming down, Livingston, Gartcairn, St Johnstone, Boroughmuir, Rossvale. That's a really, really tough league. And how do you think you are going to prepare for next season? Because I know you're heavily involved in the kind of side of the club, and I know the kind of development. There's a lot of young players coming through. How do you think is going to handle that league next season?
I think we back ourselves. I think we know that we're there for a reason. We're not going in there to just take part. We'll see where we go. And it's been amazing, actually, since the promotion, how much my phone has went off the hook for other clubs, and people trying to, obviously with my role in the club, know me as a player, as the head of academy. I'm getting contacted for different clubs that are in the SPL 1 and talking about loan players and things. And if we were still in the championship, that doesn't happen. So we need to look at all avenues. The conversations with players is going to happen this week, So we'll know by then what we need and what we don't need, and we're all recruiting. Although I think we have got an idea roughly of what we need to bring in as it stands. We have got a really strong group of players, but there is areas that you could strengthen in terms of maybe numbers or having an extra body, a wee bit of experience in there. So I don't want to give too much away, but what I'm going to say on it is we do back ourselves. We genuinely back ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And Suzanne, obviously looking at the league next season, like, I think looking at Ayr's side, I think they can do very well.
Yeah, I think so as well. You know, Livingston are a team that came up and then, you know, were right up there competing, almost got into the playoffs, and I believe the same as well. You know, I obviously an older experienced player when I was at Motherwell and we got promoted. I feel that that's so important. You need a lot of experience in there and youngsters, and I feel that when you've got a good mixture, you've got a good combination of that, I feel that you really do stand a chance. You know, it's great having younger players, fit players, hungry players. But if you've not got the experience of big games like yourself, you know, playoffs is a big, massive game. You stood up to it. You proved yourself in that game, and I feel that's what it is. Every game in SWPL2 is a big game. You know, you're fighting for every single spot, especially, you know, when the playoffs and everything. So 100%. You know, like I said, there's 4 or 5, maybe even 6 teams that'll be looking to get promoted that think they'll be in for you know, a really good chance. And again, it's just down to, you know, who kind of steps up in the big games, and obviously who can recruit well as well. You touched on that briefly there, Claire. That's for me. It's always important, you know, who you can bring in, and also at the other end, who's you know going to leave. You've got to try and keep as much vital players as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, kind of looking, Claire, as well about your own kind of career and things like that. Like obviously, knowing how hard you've worked and knowing what Ayr means to you, like, where do you kind of see your future, like in terms of playing? Like, do you still have, like, obviously looking at the game the other night, you can still go at the top level. Do you know what I mean? Like, you were absolutely remarkable. Do you kind of see yourself kind of continuing to do what you're doing, or is there like what is the kind of next steps for you in terms of your career?
I'm definitely playing this season coming. Definitely playing. I think it's been playing in my mind for a few months. Am I going to continue next season? But the closer it came and kind of realisation that we're maybe going to get promoted, I want to be part of that. I've helped to get there, so I want to be part of it. And maybe if that's my last season, I don't know, but I need to, it's my body that's going to tell me at the end of the day. I'm 22 now, so getting a wee bit old. So it'll be my body that tells me. Like the wee niggles come and you think, is this it? My knee's starting to get painful, is this it? And then a few weeks later it's died down and you're fine again. So I really don't know is the answer. I could be that 45-year-old that they're actually just getting a kit for to make her feel happy. So I'm not sure. I'm definitely taking part this season. I'm playing on.
Yeah, and is that important though? And I think kind of speaking to a few players as well. Obviously, I spoke to a few after the game on Friday, and they'd said the same thing. They said, like, how good was Clare? Like, how did you see Clare's hat trick? And you're like, yeah. And one thing that stood out as well is how important you are to the dressing room. Like, that just jumps out to me straight away when you speak to any player on that side, and speaking to Craig as well. Like, you're such a big presence. How does that kind of make you feel as well? Like, being at the club, like, it must make you feel though. But does it also like make you feel like I know how important I am? And I know that's quite a hard thing to think about and kind of understand. But I mean, think of United women's team, and I mean, you're the first.
I know. When it comes to my role, I definitely know the work I've put in off the park. I know that. I know the hurdles I've had to jump to get to where we are. But in fairness, the club have backed me and everything I've asked for, they give to me. As a player, I think it's hard. I don't like to see that in myself, because there was a wee rumour before the game that I was to be targeted and I was to be like, oh, just mark her out the game and it'll be fine. And I thought, well, if that's what he's wanted to do, good, because you've got Jodie, you've got Paige, you've got Chloe, you've got all these other players, and I just think that you're a team. So no matter what, I wouldn't have. The ball that was played through to me for the first goal was Jodie. The ball for the second goal was Paige. They wouldn't happen without the good players running about you. So it's kind of hard to take that much credit for it. It's nice to know I've still got it. I do like that. But I think the whole dressing room thing, I think it's actually a respect thing. I think they just respect me and they know that I'm in their corner and I'm doing everything for their sake. And it just comes down to like friendship and respect. The team are really, really close. I've had it in other teams that there's maybe like different groups and things like that, but this is genuinely a big group of good friends as well as teammates. So I think all these wee contributing factors go towards the bigger picture and got us to where we were on Friday night and over the line on Friday night. So
yeah, absolutely. And before we kind of wrap up, obviously we get Suzanne's shout out. Like, Scotland did a game against Israel last week. It was obviously a lot of controversy, that off the park stuff, but I thought, Suzanne, in terms of on the park, I thought it was as routine as we hoped it would be.
Yeah, they needed a win. They needed to. There has been a bit of criticism in terms of some of the results and the fact that they've not qualified for the last 2 tournaments. So I feel that it was a game, routine. They needed to win. They went out. They scored some good goals. A couple of good individual performances. I thought Clare Emsler was brilliant. Martha Thomas as well, turning provider. Instead of the goal scorer. So just routine. I felt it was great to see them, get a few goals. And obviously as well picking up the 3 points. I think it's vital. They need to keep winning. They need to keep showing that they want to be, involved in these big tournaments.
Yeah, and Claire, there was obviously controversy off the park as well with what happened, but I thought there was maybe a wee bit playing up as well with the fact that there's obviously been a lot of talk regarding Pedro Martinez-Loza's potential move to Lyon. Joelle Murray made a really good point in BBC the other day where she said he hasn't really squashed the rumours. What do you think, if Pedro was to go, do you think that'd be a big loss for Scotland, or do you think they'd be able to cover it?
It would be a loss. Obviously, he's really good, but I think it's the whole Fran Alonso thing again, because everybody thought, oh my God, he's leaving. What's Celtic going to do? And look who they've replaced him with. So they've still managed to gain success. So I think it's down to who you bring in to replace him. If he goes, he's been here a long time. I don't know how long, how many years, but it has been a long time, and I think it's just part of the process, isn't it? Sometimes fresh mouths, fresh eyes, it gives them a wee spark to do something different. So if he goes, I'm not saying it's a good thing, but I'm also not saying it's a bad thing.
Suzanne, what about obviously Scotland's kind of games coming up? Obviously, that there is a lot of chances to try and qualify for the Euros. Where do you see the team at the moment? Do you think they are capable of getting there? And what's your kind of thoughts on the whole kind of Pedro situation?
I think in that group they should be winning. They should be qualifying. They're a team that have been at 2 major tournaments. They've got players that play for the English champions, Scottish champions. Play all over the world in America. So they should be dominating. They should be. It's hard to watch sometimes when you see some of the players, the performances for Scotland. They're not quite up to par with what their club performances are. And I mean, online, people talk keyboard warriors or whatever, and I've seen a lot of criticism towards Pedro. And I think it's tough because it was such a transition period for them. They've lost, some vital players that have had, close to 100, or, the likes of Joe Love, Leanne Crichton, they've lost some big players over the past few years. And I think that it was a kind of transition period where, they've got to kind of bed in other players, and then you've got other players that, obviously Jenny Beattie as well leaving, you've got, Kim Little retiring, Caroline Weir injury, there's been loads of different things. So I think it's not just been as plain as Pedro's not picked the right team, he's not picked the right tactics. I think there's been so many other factors out with his control. So for me, of course the performances haven't been as good, but it hasn't all been down to him. And the fact that he's getting interest from Lyon shows him, how well he's kind of sought after, and how well he is respected within the coaching side of things. So I think he'll be a loss. It's always hard, replacing your manager, especially if it's kind of mid-qualifying campaign. It will be tough. But obviously the likes of Leanne Ross, the assistant coach, if she stays in there, she knows the game, she knows the players. So players like her, if there is a transition, if there is a new manager, it's people like her that will be so important to try and get things, ticking over as smoothly as possible, as quick as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And Claire, before we wrap up, I just want to ask you, what's your plans for the summer? Just chill for a bit and then back to focusing on football?
No, I'm playing fives tomorrow night.
Are you?
We've tennis for the team we're going to play. So I think we've just decided we're going to keep ourselves ticking over, just make pre-season that wee bit easier. There's no point. We all kind of go to the gym and keep fit anyway, but we're going to try and keep a wee bit of football fitness as well, because this is new to a lot of people, and I think there's just a wee feeling that we should just be as fit as we can possibly be.
Brilliant. Well, we wish you all the best with that, and thank you very much for joining us. Suzanne, we've time for one of the best segments of the season. Who's your final shout out of the season to?
A player that I briefly mentioned earlier on in the show, Brodie Greenwood. I love when you see a loan move going well. A young player, I feel that a lot of players in the women's game, they think, right, I'm 16, 17, 18, I should be playing every week for my club. So it's not like that. You do sometimes need to go away and get a bit of experience. And I think going to a club like Dundee United has really helped her, especially in terms of it was a relegation battle. That's a good experience for her, you know, that can help develop her game. But obviously coming away, scoring a goal in the playoff, and then obviously it's been rewarded. She's signed her first professional contract with Hearts, so it'll be really exciting to see her at SWPL 1 for Hearts next season. So really exciting for her, promising young player, and I feel that she deserves to be mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't thank you enough for that. And that is going to do us for this episode and the season of the SM Media Scottish Women's Football Show. All that has left me to do now is to thank everybody who's been on during the season. It's been an absolute pleasure. First of all, to our special guest tonight, Clare Docherty, thank you very much for coming on. Congratulations on your promotion and best wishes going forward.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me on.
It's always a pleasure. And to Suzanne Mulvey, over the course of the season and since we started the show, you have been excellent. You've been a brilliant partner, and we'll go again next season. I cannot thank you enough for your support and your help this season.
It's been an absolute pleasure. And to yourself, I'll say it again, the work that you put in to help promote the women's game, it's, you know, a lot of people don't appreciate and they don't see the amount of work that you put in. So I feel that you deserve a special mention as well. So well done.
Thank you. You make me blush. Thank you very much. And all that is left me to do is to thank everybody that's appeared on the show this season. And we will see you all next season as well for a new and improved Scottish Women's Football Show. And to all the viewers, thank you very much. We'll see you all soon. Thank you.